At the very beginning of the Parsha, we have the story of Yaakov buying the Bechorah from Esav. So it says at the very end, Perek Chavhei Pasuk Lamed Daled, Yaakov nasan leEsav lechem unizid adashim. The Yaakov gave to Esav the bread and the lentils. Vayochal vayesh, he ate and he drank. Vayakam vayelach, and he got up and he left. Vayizav Esav vayivez Esav es habchorah, and he belittled the Bechorah. There's a very interesting back and forth between the Ibn Ezra and his Perush and the Ramban and his Perush here. Ibn Ezra says, how could it be that Esav was belittling the Bechorah? I mean, Avraham was incredibly wealthy. Yitzchak presumably was incredibly wealthy. How could it be that Esav just didn't care about all that money? So he has a whole mahalach, Ibn Ezra does, where he looks into the psukim and he says it has to be that Yitzchak at this point in his life was actually very, very poor. First of all, because of the fact that Esav didn't care that much about the Bechorah. Second of all, when he's about to get the bracha, when Yitzchak is inviting Esav to get the bracha, so he says, please give me some food so that I'll be able to give you the bracha. Why did Yitzchak need the food of Esav? Why didn't he have servants? Why didn't he have animals? Why did he need that? So says the Ibn Ezra, it must be that he really didn't have that much to eat. Meaning he probably had very simple food. So when he got a nice meat meal, it made him very excited. And that was able to kind of be a motivation to have a karas hatov to Esav to give him a proper bracha. And finally he says that at the very end of the parsha, when Yaakov was running away, so in next week's parsha we see he's davening to Hashem, just give me a little bit of bread, a little bit of clothing to have, that's all I ask for. So he says if Yitzchak's household was so wealthy, how could Yaakov have been sent away without anything? It doesn't make sense. Elama, it must be that Yitzchak actually lost his wealth. So, and in the middle of there, he says, the Ibn Ezra says, that why should this be so troublesome to us? He says, V'urei lev yachshavu, ivrei lev. Those who are blind of heart think, ki ha'osher ma'ala gdola letzadikim, that it's considered a big ma'ala for tzadikim to be wealthy. V'hinei Eliyahu yochiach, Eliyahu living on a mountaintop, the simplest, the barest of the bare, he proves it's really not the case. To be a proper tzaddik, to be a very holy person, the opposite in a certain sense, says the Ibn Ezra. One does not need any sort of wealth. The Ramban is very upset at the Ibn Ezra. I encourage everybody to take a look at the Ramban, Perek Chavhei, Pasuk Lamed Daled, where he quotes the Ibn Ezra and he really just rejects it piece by piece. And he brings many rayos from the Parsha about how Avimelech and people are respecting Yitzchak, and the Psukim themselves are talking about how Hashem blessed him. So if that's the case, the Ramban can ask on himself, what about all these rayos of the Ibn Ezra? How could it be that Esav, Vayivaz Esav es habchorah? So he says Esav, because he just wanted immediate gratification. Or you could say that the Bechorah back in the time of the Avos didn't mean you get a double portion, it could just mean you get some sort of superiority. And he one by one, he rejects the rayos of the Ibn Ezra. In terms of the one that I want to talk about just for 1 minute, in terms of the raya of the Ibn Ezra, that if Yitzchak and his household were so wealthy, why did he care about getting this meal from his son Esav? He could have gotten a meal from anywhere in his kitchen with all of his cooks. So first of all, the Ramban has a very interesting line, and he says, "V'im yesh tzadikim shemagia aleim k'maaseh harishayim." If it's true, like the Ibn Ezra brings from Eliyahu, there are certain tzadikim who are treated like a rasha in terms of not having a lot of bracha and parnasa from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but inyan ha'osher in regards to wealth. That's not about the ones who specifically, as in our parsha, were blessed by Hashem. But all the avos, you should know, were literally royalty. They were incredibly, incredibly wealthy. All the non-Jewish leaders and kings were coming to try to find favor with them. But then he says, in terms of that specific issue of the meal that Esav prepared, so he says, Umasha Amar levarich oso. Acher asos lo hamat amim, and why did Yitzchak want to bless Esav after he prepared that delicious food? It's not that Esav was kind of buying off Yitzchak by giving him that food. He's trying to get in with him so that Yitzchak will be okay with giving him a bracha or something like that. Yitzchak wanted there to be this emotional connection between him and his son. He wanted there to be this positive experience, this deep connecting experience between the two of them. He wanted it to be that he felt completely in this bracha and completely happy about giving this bracha. Okay? Or he says that Yaakov felt that by having this delicious meal, it would enable him to achieve Ruach HaKodesh, for which he could then give Esav, obviously, the proper bracha if he's in that state, that spiritual state of Ruach HaKodesh. I think both ideas of the Ramban are really incredible and something we could really take a lot from. Why was it, if Yitzchak was so wealthy, why was it that he wanted this experience with Esav? He's going to bring him the meal. So he says, first of all, he's not about buying him off. It's not about the wealth. It's about the connection. It's about the experience, which is such an important lesson to us with our families, with our friends, that Yitzchak, he had everything he needed. Nevertheless, he didn't have that every night to have dinner, to have that connecting experience with his son, with his family. It's so important. But maybe even more than that, and which can be relevant to all of us, the idea that I think sometimes we can belittle what it means to have a good meal, to enjoy ourselves. If anything, we look at it almost as something which could bring us off of the path from serving Hashem properly. It could be something which brings us away. But the Ramban says just the opposite. In order to be Ovdei Hashem, we have to be happy, we have to be healthy, we have to enjoy ourselves. A person, how is he going to daven if he's half asleep? How is he going to daven if he's hungry? How is a person going to be able to learn if he doesn't have a certain geshmak of the fact that he's enjoying himself? So the idea, they're bound together very intimately. The ability to be happy, healthy, enjoying oneself, and to be a true Oved Hashem. Because if somebody wants to be able to be somebody who feels like I can approach HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Torah, in Tefillah, you have to be somebody who's happy, and you have to be somebody who's able to be your best self. So therefore, for those of us who are in yeshiva now, who just want to be proper Ovdei Hashem, it's so important to prioritize getting proper sleep, having a proper diet, things which we think are whatever. It's not that important. The truth is it's very, very important. Because to be able to be somebody who can truly approach Hashem, you have to be somebody who's whole and healthy in our entire being. Maybe we zoche to always have that proper wholeness in everything we do and be true of the Hashem.